Well, welcome to Newscasting Ancient Times. I'm Sandi Craig, and on behalf of the LAMB Network, I'm here with Mark David Smith to bring you Brit Hadashaw accounts as though they happened today.
Welcome, everybody. I trust your week's been blessed. You've been a blessing to everyone you come in contact with. Well, Sandi, I guess Yeshua has strolled up north.
North he is, along with his band of merry Talmudim, strolling through. Not so sure I'd call it strolling. These guys are trucking through the land, hanging out in Tyre and Sidon. That they are now. That's a party place.
Yeah.
Of course, so I've heard.
Yeah. So I have also heard. I'm a family man, Sandy Lou. I don't get out a whole lot to party, and definitely not in Tyre and Sidon. No.
Well, I have a family too, Mark, but you know that. My party days have passed by. Not that I don't have my fun, just not in the same way as back in the day, if you know what I mean.
Back in the day.
Way
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean. And my spidey senses are telling me that Yeshua is not a partier either. To him, I think the area of Tyre and Sidon has more of a history vibe than anything else.
Okay, enough about all that. And no, I don't believe Yeshua and his Talmudim are in the area to party. No, the devices and gambits and schemes of man.
Yeah,
I don't think man will ever learn, Mark.
Yeah, no, I agree. Never, ever. I'm pretty sure that's why Yeshua has made his way there. I believe he sees something there. The rest of us will never be able to sense the way he does. I'm beginning to think Yeshua senses things in people in a different way than the rest of us. Funny, but I also have noticed he goes where the hurting and despair is the worst. It's like he walks right into the dungeon and takes on all the evil the rest of us won't even face ourselves. As a matter of fact, this report confirms just exactly that.
Wow. Okay. You're heading in a different direction. Have you got something to tell me, sir?
Maybe in time. I'm letting it simmer.
Okay. Back to Tyre and Sidon. Well, my report says that they hadn't even entered the western side of the city before being swamped by people crowding the roadways and the side streets.
Yeah, well, it says here that a woman from Canaan practically knocked Yeshua down, pleading with him. She said something like, "Sir, have pity on me." The distress in her voice caused Yeshua to block out all the other sounds people were making and look her way. Bound in flesh, twisting knots, a very young girl was squirming by the woman's side. The woman continued to plead, "Son of David, my daughter is cruelly held under the power of demons." But Yeshua ignored her and kept on walking. Then his Talmudim grabbed him by the arm and urged him, "Send her away. She is following us and keeps pestering us with her crying." Yeshua replied to his Talmudim, "I was only sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman kept pushing in, fell at his feet and said, "Sir, help me." Frustrated with the crowd and the woman, Yeshua reluctantly told her, "It is not right to take the children's food and toss it to their pet dogs." She quickly stood up and was very tall, face to face in front of Yeshua. She answered him, "That is true, sir. But even the dogs eat the leftovers that fall from their master's table." The crowd stopped talking and became stone cold quiet. Yeshua looked at the crowd, then, perceiving their shock at this woman's boldness, answered her, "Woman, you are a person of great trust. Let your desire be granted." Her daughter straightened out her arms and legs, stopped squirming, and was healed at that very moment.
Okay, I'm quitting my job today and I'm going out on the road and becoming one of Yeshua's followers.
Right. Wait, no, you're not. Neither am I. But I'm with you. You just want to be there when it happens, right?
Absolutely unreal, Mark. And yet, it is. These reports are real and I want to be there.
Yeah, right. Sandy, you know there's more to the report. Read that part, the next part.
All right. Yeshua left there and went along the shore of Lake Kinneret. He climbed a hill and sat down. Large crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others. They brought them to his feet, and he healed them. The people were amazed as they saw mute people speaking and crippled people cured, lame people walking, and blind people seeing. And they said, Barakah to the God of Israel. Yeshua called his Talmudim to him and said, I feel sorry for these people because they have been with me 3 days, and now they have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry because they might collapse on the way home. The Talmudim said to Yeshua, where will we find enough loaves of bread in this remote place to satisfy so big a crowd? Yeshua asked them, well, how many loaves do you have? They said, 7 and a few fish. After telling the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish and made a barakah, broke the loaves and gave them to the Talmudim, who gave them to the people. Everyone ate his fill, and they took 7 large basketfuls full of the leftover pieces. Those eating numbered 4,000 plus women and children. After sending the crowd away, he got in the boat and went off to the region of Magadan.
Okay, you're right. Let's go. I'm ready.
You wish, and I do too. I would love to just go travel around the country and help people who are in need.
Well,
We've still got a long way to go, Mark. A long way to go right here. The people
true.
need us right here.
That's
They
true.
need us to tell them these stories,
Yeah.
these reports. They need to hear what Yeshua is doing out there. What is hope? Hope to the people of Israel. We've never needed it more.
That's real true. Well, I'm not interested in leaving. I love doing the show, and now is the most vital time to report the news of the land.
Well, I truly believe this story is going to get bigger, Mark. Something big is going to happen, and Yeshua is going to be right in the middle of it.
Yep.
I believe this man, I want to say Messiah so bad, is going to be with us for a very long time.
Time will tell, Sandy.
Of course.
Well, let's see if we can get out again this next week and do a more in-depth story on Yeshua together. I would like to do an interview with him and maybe 1 or 2 of his Talmudim. We could do a series of interviews and reports exclusive to the LAMB network. Let's see what we can put together.
I'm all for it, Mark. We need a crew on the road again.
Yeah. Did you know that Willie just had his 90th birthday last week?
Who?
Once again, Yeshua has got us spinning. I hope you're taking this journey with us, and if you have thoughts on these matters, be sure to let us know. Who knows where it might take us? Who knows?
Once again, I believe this chronicle of Yeshua and his Talmudim could turn out to be the story of the year,
of the century.
of our lives. Are you ready, Mr. Smith?
I've only just begun.
Be blessed and be a blessing to everyone you meet. That's it for this edition of Newscasting Ancient Times. I'm Sandi Craig.
And I'm Mark David Smith.
Shalom.
We've heard that song so many times, I know the next part to it. Hi, Sandi Craig.
Hello, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith.
Uh-huh.
Well,
what did Yeshua mean when he said that he only came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and in response to the Talmudim, and it's not right to take the children's food and toss it to their pet dogs?
why don't you tell us?
No, why don't you tell us? You're the teacher. I'm just the receiver.
That's not true at all. I haven't ever really, I mean, we know the basic meaning. She's saying, hey, all of us get some, even the dogs get something. So let me receive that healing. We know the basic surface meaning, but the in-depth part of it, I'd like to research that out, because if you don't know the word and you don't know Yeshua and you don't know that, you go, man, that's harsh.
Well, I agree. It's always kind of baffled me. And I have to say, I don't remember ever hearing a good teaching explaining this. And of course, then her response of, that the dogs even get the stuff that comes off the master's table.
She's bold.
Yeah, I agree. She stood up to him and he responded. I think it's a great passage. I'm just not so sure I really understand it.
I think you've got you know what it brings to forefront. Again, I want to research that some and get into some deeper meaning of that and find out and talk about it. But yeah. I agree. The minute when I read the script, I was like, I really need to research that out. That's the first thing I thought. So
yep. Funny how we run into things we've read 1,000 and still just read over it and say, yeah, okay, yeah, and you agree with it, and you go on to the next thing, and because that's not really what you're looking at, and there's so many things, especially in the Gospels, that are just snippets. They're little snippet stories. And some of them fit and some of them don't fit. They're just a little snippet story that just seems to be completely out of context. Why are they even talking about this?
But every word has meaning. I mean, every word Yeshua spoke has meaning. And again, we get the surface meaning. That we get that. But I want to know the deeper parts.
Yeah, I agree. I think this would be an interesting one to search out. It just seems so odd, and it was all about her faith, her trust, her faith, because whatever she said, he highly respected. So yeah, I'd be interested to know. Yeah. Anybody out there that knows for a fact, 100% fact, why they said all this?
Yeah, right.
Go ahead and email Sandi and let her know.
Yeah, right. 100% fact.
Oh,
Well, I have a choice of two different things you can choose to ask today.
okay. Well,
Here's
maybe you need to say them both.
well, okay.
Go with
I'll
the first
start
one.
with this one.
Yeah.
Back in when I first met you, you were like the you have you hired and fired people before besides at LAMB?
I've never hired anybody or fired anybody for LAMB at all, but I've brought people in, and I have had to ask people to producers to leave. Yeah.
Okay, so let me
But
ask this.
I've owned my own businesses, several
Well, that's
businesses,
what I meant because when
and
I met you, I knew you owned.
yeah, and yes, I even wow, I even this is so funny because it pops up every time I think about it. I even fired my pastor's father, who
Woo! Ouch.
I know, and I I wonder even yet still today if that has not been held against me most of my life. But
Uh-oh.
anyway,
Well,
so yeah.
so when you were hiring people, did you look for certain qualifications or words or things spoken when you were hiring people to manage or take care of your business or work in your business? Because I have some weird job interview mistakes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I want you to think back as I'm going through this. Has anybody ever given you a really bad impression because of what they said when they wanted to have a job? Because here we go. Hiring managers were asked to share the most unusual job candidate mistakes. So, folks, this means you don't need to say this in a job interview. One candidate performed magic tricks for the interview.
Now that might have impressed me, though.
That's true. That might have been right up your alley. So,
I,
another candidate showed up for the wrong job interview with the wrong company.
yeah.
Another candidate told the interviewer, I don't have any particular ambitions for advancement as long as I'm paid a lot more in 5 years. Yeah, I'm going
But
to hire that
millennials,
guy, right?
millennials.
And then finally, one candidate told the interviewer that he could not travel for work when his favorite baseball team was playing home games.
Yeah, you hire that guy right away.
Yeah,
Mark.
oh no.
Yeah, he's dedicated employee right there.
I know I have had people come in and to Life of Worship over the last 2 decades, and they'll say, well, even before that, when I was doing stuff for other congregations, and when they come in, people love platform ministry, especially, well, they just do. And they'll be like, I have a great voice. I can do this and I can be on your team. If somebody does that, I will not ask them to be a part of worship.
Mhm.
And I've told you that before because it's about the
Yeah,
heart. And
yeah,
fine, you go clean some bathrooms for me, and we'll talk about it in a few months.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that about International House of Prayer because I don't care if you are a huge named speaker that travels the world. When you went to IHOP, and I'm talking specifically of the university in Kansas City, you were humbled because the first jobs you got were janitor duties.
Uh-huh.
And when you were going to school or taking classes there, and then it changed, but it makes you realize the one who is very important is the servant of all. But that's this kind of world. In the job world out there, and these mistakes are huge. Did you ever have any weird thing that people wanted a job, even or wanted position or wanted, hey, I want to be on your network so I can be famous or something,
Well, yes. As a matter of fact, after a few years of going through producers, different people that were doing different shows, it became very dominant to me that the Lord shows me who to bring in, or we populate Lamb with people that I either know personally, I know their integrity. I know of their ministry. Somebody else that I respect has recommended somebody. Those people always seem real good, but when somebody gets a hold of me, they email me and say, "Hey, do you have a place where I could present my message?" Well, I'm not going to just throw them away. I'm going to go search into it and see, and maybe there's something there. You know me, I like anything unique. It doesn't mean that I necessarily have to believe in your doctrine or dogma or whatever, but if you have a unique presentation that seems of somewhat integrity, then I'm for that. Of course, it makes a difference the person's personality and how they are, and you've known me long enough that I can talk to you for 5 or 10 minutes and kind of pretty much assess who you are and what your personality is. What I found is that after a certain period of time, that those people rarely ever lasted very long.
It's
For
true.
a lot of different reasons. Either their doctrine was way off different than what I was told or thought from the beginning, or these people had a different attitude towards things. There's all kinds of different things that could.
Vision.
Yeah. So the ones the Lord brought to me lasted. The ones that called me or emailed me and said, "Let me do a show," those very few became very long.
Okay. So I agree. And it's the same sort of thing when people ask for position at in our ministries and things like that. So I have a question based on that, just a silly one. How long did it take you to assess my personality? Now, remember, you met me just because I was praying, and I can remember that face when you look back in your chair to see who just prayed. How long did it take you to assess my personality, and is it different than you thought?
Well, it didn't take long to assess your personality. When a person prays, you can get at least a halfway decent idea of that person's personality. Just listening to a person pray out loud. It was obvious that you were a seasoned person in the Lord. Let's put it that way. And then how long? What?
Well, I just
How
did.
long before I was?
Did your first impressions change once you got to know me?
Yes, because
Really?
at first I thought you were an angel, and then I figured out you were just a human. So yeah,
Okay.
once I figured out you were human, and everything was okay. So
yeah, I'm human. I'm human and I'm fallible, folks. Sorry to tell you, but it's the
But
way.
when you pray, Sandi, you're like an angel. So
All righty then. It's getting really deep. Hey, Bob.
no. No, things didn't change. Matter of fact, we grew.
Yeah, that's right.
It didn't. It did. Yeah, things change, and usually for the better. Once I figured out who you were, and of course, I probably fired you and John 14 times, but you guys just keep coming back.
Especially since we didn't know.
Yeah. What?
Especially since we didn't know we were fired.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know you were. Oh, I'm supposed to tell you that you
Yeah.
guys were fired. Yeah. Yeah, I'd get mad at you guys and say, "All right, they're not doing a show anymore," and then I come back and you guys were right there back doing your shows. I guess I was supposed to tell you. So,
Well, I can say my first impression of you. It's just
wait. I never asked you that question, Sandi. I'm not looking for you.
All I was going to say is that you are exactly who you've always
Anyway.
been.
I've what?
You're exactly who you've always been. That's what I got to say.
I'm not changed from day one when you first met me.
No, I mean, you're this hippie, fun-loving, smart, business-oriented, visionary, creative, fun friend and mentor and all of these things. You're all of that.
All right. And it's been the same since day one to now.
Yeah, because the day I met you is like I said, the first sight I had of you is when you leaned back in your chair and then you started talking to me, and then I was a campfire. So I mean, you
Yeah.
get that and campfire. What do you get the whole package, right?
Well, you and John and I met for lunch one day there at Sikot,
Oh
and
yeah.
I do remember that very clearly. And talking about it, and I'm sure I gave you guys my spiel on what lamb was and everything.
I'm sure you did, but I don't remember that part.
Yeah. No, that's cool though. I hadn't thought of all that.
Yeah.
You're not. You and John aren't any different either. You're just the same. So
Yeah.
no big deal.
Do you want to hear my other sad fact?
Yeah. What's the other sad fact?
According to a study that calculated the adult portion of the human race's collective weight, humanity is 17 million tons overweight. Forget about global warming. We should be worried about our planet falling out of orbit, is what this article says. 17 million tons overweight are the people of Earth.
Uh-huh.
And they are mostly centralized in Western countries.
Uh-huh. I don't doubt.
Probably in the US, because we haven't changed our food policy when it comes to foods that are allowed and not allowed, like Europe. So
that's true.
Europe bans foods because they're not healthy at fast food restaurants and things. The US says eat them so you'll die. Sorry, the US doesn't speak, but in general, I believe that's the mission.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. I'm with you. I don't know, but I'm with you. It's people don't do their research, and I have to say, I have things that I eat and drink that my wife won't touch because they're not healthy for us. But I'm 69 years old. I'm going to eat and drink whatever I want to eat.
Do what I want.
Yeah. I've got myself to this point. So, anyway.
Yeah. Well, as a woman,
you got no response to that one.
As a woman, I always feel like I'm contributing to that problem of that stat. So,
well, you're not.
Well, that's women feel that way.
I have no one, and the Lord has no one to blame but me. So that's 100% it. I buy my own groceries. She buys her own groceries.
Oh my!
And well, sometimes they're the same, or she eats what I buy and I eat what she buys. but we do both grocery shop differently, and so hey,
John eats if I'm cooking, then John eats whatever I cook, and otherwise he eats whatever one of us buys. So, well, that's not true. I'm going to tell on him because I find energy drinks like not like energy drinks like Gatorade and junk like that, but I used to find cans of that and chips. So I was on the road. And of course, on the road at midnight, he's trying to make it home, so he gets some kind of
that's a rough one.
Drink that, and they were the healthier type of those kind of staying awake drinks. But
yeah,
anyway, so I don't.
I'm with you. I'm with you. It's rough when you're out of sorts. You're not in a regular routine, and things change. And been there my whole life on things like that. That's why at 69, I love my routines. That's like when I got back from Texas, from Sikot this past year. It's like I am never leaving home. Never again. Of course, this was the worst trip I've ever had in my life, but it's still, I'm never leaving home. So, Walmart, 3 miles away. That's as far as I'm going to go from now on. It's, I'm good. I'm set. So,
Well, it's bad because my natural tendency would be it to be in my house and never leave as well.
we,
Seriously,
um,
that people are shocked at that, but yeah, that would be my choice, but I can't
yeah.
do that. So
Well, none of us can, but it's a comfort choice. The so much chaos, not only in the world but in our lives around us, and things are just. So, once you walk out that door, you just stepped into chaos,
it's true.
and it's kind of like I just wanna be here. I'm so tired of the chaos. I want to be home where I've got all my comfort,
Comforts.
and I can block out what I want to block out, and I can accept what I want to accept. Thank God for the internet, Sandy. Oh my gosh, thank God for computers and the internet so that we can stay home and never have to go physically out into the chaos.
All right.
Of course, you could also see that I have like 700 movies up there that that
Entertain you.
I don't have to go anywhere. I can sit and watch all my movies. I was gonna mess that up. All right, so we're on to your section now. You've been trying to do your section for 3 weeks now, 3 or 4 weeks. Right?
Yep, it's been about, I think we skipped a week, so it's actually been sitting here for 4. So
Oh well, here we go. All right, we'll be right back after this.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the streets of gold. We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet.
are you a fragile vessel or a treasure possession? Are you both? Let's talk about that today. 2 Corinthians 4:7 says, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us." So we know that people throughout time have imperfect bodies. You and I have imperfect bodies. We read in scripture that Shaul, Paul, has issues that he's dealing with. So, and he refers because of that to our bodies as earthly vessels. Well, what are earthly vessels? They're made of dirt. They're made of clay. They're easily be easily broken. But Yah always tells us that his grace is sufficient for us. The word grace in Aramaic is yabotha, which is a favor or a gift. So God's gift to us, Yah's gift to Paul was the living, loving life of Yeshua. And where did Yeshua dwell? Within him. Where can Yeshua dwell? If you allow it, within you and I as well. So he gave Paul strength when he needed it. He gave him wisdom. He gave him abilities that he lacked because Yeshua resided within him. So whatever he needed to accomplish, whatever it was, Yah brought the provision forth in his time. So let's look at that, because we're very aware that we are a people whose bodies sometimes fail us, who are imperfect, in my case, very imperfect. And yet Yah uses us. He uses the foolish things. He uses that imperfect things. So why would Yah dwell within this imperfect, fragile vessel? Well, let's talk about it. The word for earthen vessel in Greek is ostrakinos. Okay, so it is number 3749. And then you look at vessel, and it, oh well, let's go back to that word. It's something made of clay, so that's pretty obvious right there. But then we go to the word vessel in Greek. It's skios, which is meant to be just a container for something. It can be a container for food. It can be a container for your possessions. It could be a ship, but it's something that contains something. All right. And generally, it's something of value. So remember that. So when you look at this skeuosin, which is a jar or a vessel or something that's a container, we need to have that picture along with this earthen vessel. The word bamana is a vessel that is fragile and easily broken. We see all of these terms here. So despite our broken bodies, despite our imperfect bodies, despite Paul's vessel, despite these fragile vessels that we live in, it still contains something far more valuable than we could even imagine. Our bodies contain a treasure. If we are the living, walking tabernacle, if we are that Torah scroll written on the front and the back, we contain a treasure, even if we're imperfect, even if we're broken, even if things aren't as we want them to be. Some say the treasure, well, is Yah's grace. I don't know, because I believe more than anything, the treasure we contain is Yeshua when he is living and working and within us. When we allow him to sit on the throne of our hearts and not ourselves. And when we keep him there, that's the key thing. Sometimes we say, come take our lives, Father, take our life. We give it to you. But then we move him off the throne and say, we need to handle this ourselves. Well, 2 Corinthians 13:5 says, know ye not your own selves, how that Yeshua Messiah is in you, except you be reprobates. So here are the words literally in you, vakavan, which is to be in you when entirely. He is to be in us entirely. Get this picture, not part of us, not an area that we've designated. According to scripture, when you look at the word, it's supposed to be in us entirely. He completely fills our fragile bodies. But yet he makes our fragile bodies whole, as we even, because he is our healer, he's our deliverer, he's the one that makes us and wants us to fulfill the purposes for which he's called us. Even if we are less than perfect, he wants to mold us and make us into this being that who we're supposed to be. So we're constantly maybe changing, hopefully, right? Even if we're however imperfect we might be now, or whatever thing we might be suffering with. The word treasure in Aramaic is simatha, which is a hidden treasure. Now, when we look at culture back in the A&E in the East, we see that kings and others would put precious things in vessels that seemed not as rich. They would put them inside of clay jars instead of ornate vessels. They weren't fancy. They would put the valuables, their silver, their gold, in jars of clay, fragile vessels, easily broken. Now, I even think about the Dead Sea Scrolls, which we've been studying. Where were they placed? They were placed in jars of clay. So here we have this idea that there's something far more valuable than we would ever think inside this plain looking vessel. Shaul creates this picture of this fragile body containing the great treasure, the living, loving Yeshua, our Messiah. This vessel, this flesh, our nefesh, maybe it's of little value. It will turn to dust one day and be transformed by him. But even if it may be of little value, he is of great value. And I'm not saying that you and I are of little value. Please understand that. But our flesh is our flesh. And it can have flaws. It can be broken. It can, all sorts of things. So even if we are simple jars of clay, we can't contain something extraordinary, the greatest value we could ever think of. So I want you to think of what happens with the things that you have in your home. Let's say you have these ornate dishes or vessels. Do you use them often? Generally, no. Generally, the really pretty stuff, the really ornate things, we keep on a shelf. Even our dishes. What do we do with our fine china? It comes out maybe once a year. Otherwise, it stays put away and hidden. But then you have these things around your house that are just ordinary, commonplace, maybe even broken handles, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows what they are, but they're vessels that you use all the time. And you would notice if they were missed. Whereas the one that you pull out of the cupboard once a year, that vessel, or maybe just sits on a shelf to look pretty, its absence may never even be noticed because it has no value in its usefulness. But the old marred up, beat up things because of love and use, those you use all the time. Would it be the same with us? I don't know. Because one vessel, you'll never know it's gone. The other, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it, even though it's not flashy. Maybe that's a thought we should have, because he loves us and we are a work in progress. So if the vessel has value, you and I have great value for many reasons, because he's chosen us, because he's made us, because he's formed us before in our mother's womb, before we even knew, he's known us, and we are valuable to him. But even more so when we contain the treasure of our Messiah. But yet he is also the treasure. He is the treasure, and we are his treasure. We are his treasure. So let's look at Exodus 19:5. It says, "Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my commandments, then you will be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine." Okay, let's look at that, because we know that Yeshua, our Messiah, is our treasure possession. Yet he calls us a treasure as well. Which is it? Yes, it's both. So let's look at that. Because what does it mean to be a peculiar treasure? Is that even the right word? Because I want to tell you something. Peculiar is not even in the text. No, nope, it's not there. The word is sagal, and it's translated as peculiar, but modern translators actually more correctly translate it when they say treasured possession, because Segal really has this idea of being a possession. So we are a possession. Well, whose possession are we? Well, maybe we need to ask that by our actions and what we do and how we speak and how we live. Maybe that might say whose possession we are. But here we're speaking directly of our Messiah, because we're following his commandments. So here we have something that's highly prized. We will be a special possession to Yahweh. Let's break it down in the Paleo really quickly. The Psalmic here on Segal indicates that the possession is one which is carefully protected and sheltered. Ooh, that sounds good, doesn't it? If we are his treasured possession, he is protecting us and sheltering us when you read that word. And then we look at the Gimel in Segal, and it shows that this is a prized, beloved possession. So not only are we protected and sheltered, we are loved and prized. That's something, isn't it? If you have something that you prize, that you show special favor to, that you take care of. And then we look at the lamed that is in possession, and it keeps, that means it in one of the areas, it means it keeps developing, it keeps upgrading. And that's what we've spoken of. Hopefully we aren't stagnant water that stays the same all the time, because we are his possession. Hopefully we are changing. So his peculiar treasure, we are with this word, peculiar possession, treasured possession. We are under his protection. We are beloved. We are prized, and he keeps polishing us. He keeps upgrading us, making us into what we are supposed to be. It's a pretty great thought right there. Think of that. What do we have to do? We follow his commands. And that's what he does for us, because if you love me, what? You keep my commands. Now let's look at the gematria of this word Segal, which is 93. Guess what else has this value? Well, it's inheritance or heirloom. Okay, that should click for us. Inheritance, heirloom, treasure possession that's loved, protected, and taken care of. Wow. So what is valuable to us may not be valuable to others, right? We understand that. Maybe it's a handkerchief, maybe from your grandmother. I have handkerchiefs from my grandmother, and they're very valuable to me, but they would mean nothing to anyone else, because ultimately, what are we? We're just dust, right? So some people, you may be poor, nobody knows you. You may think of yourself, I said, you may think of yourself as unaccomplished. You may think of yourself as uneducated. Or you may constantly go down the row of the list. I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, of things that you're not. But that's not what Yah considers you. When his voice, when we obey his word and we follow his commands, we are the treasure possession, beloved, taken care of, changing. But we are also the heirloom, maybe worthless to some, but valuable to him. So precious, in fact, that Yah sent his son, who died on the stake, on the cross, for you and me. Dirt, maybe a lump of clay, maybe a broken earthen vessel, but we are treasured beyond what we could even understand. So it doesn't matter what the world says about you. Doesn't matter what others said about you. And if you are thinking that all the time, you need to change your thought process too, because sometimes we are the ones that are our own worst critic, and we speak things that are contrary to his word, because you are valuable. You may be a fragile vessel, but you contain a treasure, and that treasure that's within you, Yeshua, our Messiah, considers us a treasure that's valuable, that is so worth something to him, that he gave his life. Treasure, possession, fragile vessel. Yes, that's what we are. Mark.
I was just meditating on what you were saying. I wasn't even thinking about coming back here, just thinking about all of that. That's very good. It's been a long time since I've heard any teaching on this type of subject at all. It's very good. I guess actually I was thinking at the beginning I'd come back and just let you know that I'm a crackpot. Yeah, and we've all heard that in this teaching. We're all cracked pots and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting. That before, in the first half of the show, we were, right before we started this, I was talking about what I put into my body,
that's true.
my container, and taking care of my container, because the Lord has given us charge over this. We're responsible for not only physically how we take care of our container, but also mentally. It's still part of that container, and it's what we do with that. It's how we portray ourselves based on what we put into our container, and layer upon layer learn those things, and then what comes out of that container is based on what you put into it. The sowing of the seeds and all of that, and everything. And you had said, that what's put into any container is that of value. Why would you put something in any container that that you don't need or you don't want? You might think that, oh, I may need this later on. We have drawers and drawers that are catch-all drawers. I mean, I think almost everybody has at least one drawer somewhere where we put things that aren't really of value, but who knows? We may need that at another time. To me, that makes it of value, because you don't want to have to go try to get that again. And that can apply to us, into not only physically what we eat and drink and put into our bodies, but, we're storing things that sometimes doesn't seem to be of any value at all, in our brains, in our thought process. I mean, I have just a massive amount of unusable knowledge up here, and yet I can't access sometimes the things that are so important that I need right now. And I think that literally has to do with what we do with value, where things are, because things that are of great value to me, most of the time I can retain those things. And I think that's just really, really good. The Lord is in us entirely. And you had mentioned that it makes us who he wants us to be. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but I think it's most important to the Lord that he wants us for who we are. I mean, he wants us and our personality, and he doesn't want us to be different than who we are and how people knows us. It's more of, we need to use that to help portray who Yeshua is, who the Lord is, who God is, what our lifestyle is. And of course, obviously, after a certain period of time of acclimating to the lifestyle that we now know is as just commonplace, it takes a little while for us to put those things into this container so that it becomes our life. But and this is something I dealt with a long time ago when we first, when I was first acclimating, our whole family was acclimating to the Torah lifestyle, is that, and there are people that'll tell you, you need to change. You need to stop being this way, and you need to be this way, and you're this way, but that's not right. And it's like, you know what? I am who I am. And if I have to change my whole personality and countenance and everything about me so that I can be saved, so that I can portray what other people want me to portray, then I don't want it. I'm not interested. And I don't think Yeshua wants us to change in those areas. I think that he wants us to acclimate to what's right and adjust things that are skewed or wrong, or our thought processes are wrong, to adjust those to what's right. But I still think he wants the basic essence of who we are to remain the same.
I agree. I think when we're talking about change, we're talking about that word that transforms us. It transforms the way we think. And if we're transformed the way we think, it transforms the way we see things and how we act. And I think those are the changes that he works within us, because we are going to respond differently to this terrible situation that just came up when he has been working on us and living in us, and his word is alive in us, than if we're out in the world and this happens, and we'll respond differently. It's not that our character has changed. It's that we see things through his eyes instead of our eyes of flesh. And thus we respond according to that, because we're more seasoned. It's just like when James said, hey, don't throw everything at him. Make sure that the people that are coming in do this and this and this. And as they do that, then they're going to be transformed, and then they'll take on the rest. And the more we take on of his word, we are going to change, because the word is transformational for our lives. But it doesn't mean that Mark or Sandy, Mark, the fun guy, the one that has life that's just out there, or Sandy, whoever I am, it doesn't mean that our personality changes and that who the essence of who we are, because he loves who we are. He made us that way for a reason and a purpose. But there still are things within us that change.
Right. Exactly. Thought processes, things like that. I agree. And once again, I think there was a time when I really had to stand back and assess who I was and what changed that I didn't like, because I thought that I had to. And I think I came to a place one time where I said, I may even, matter of fact, I did. I came to a place this is a long time ago, where I was hearing different conflicting reports about stuff, and I literally had to pray about it and tell the Lord, look, I am backing off. Right. I can't do this anymore. I need to reassess where I stand in my earthly walk in my earthly container and in my spiritual walk, in my spiritual container.
Right.
You know, I did. I took a long time, and I reassessed things. It wasn't like I was interested in losing my salvation or anything. I just didn't like who I had become based on what other people's expectations. And I allowed that to happen. And if I would ever put a message out there, don't do that. Always maintain who you are. You have to. That's what the Lord wants, I believe. There's never a place you can't back any scripture up to say. We're done. Sorry. I tend to rattle. So
It's good.
very good. It's good discussion. I love it. I love it. Any last words?
You know what? We're work in progress. I think the big thing we need to do is change the way we speak about ourselves. Maybe it's more women that do that, including myself. I'm speaking to myself. But we need to change the way we see us instead. We need to say that we see ourselves and others through his eyes, because the one that hurt you or did this is still his treasured possession, because those that are closest to us, usually those that are family, even in the faith, are the ones that hurt us the most.
That's right.
But they're just fragile vessels.
There you go. Crackpots.
Yep.
All right. All right. Very good. I love you, Sandy, big time. It's always good. Always good. All right. If you missed any part of the show or want to watch it again or tell somebody about it, you can go to lambnetwork.tv and go to the on demand, and you'll find us there. Remember, this is Thursday. So it's Thursday on demand, and we'll be back next week. We were talking about, I'm pretty sure we'll be here next week, and we'll see what pops up. And also, if you're not receiving our news, I just sent out a new MailChimp about the show today, where it's going to come out every week. And so if you haven't signed up for our MailChimps, go online and to lambnetwork.tv and sign up for it. Sandy's got one too. Yours was good. I saw yours the other day. Very good. All right. So we'll see you in the by and by. And bye. Until next week. Later.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.